Georgia Miller is one of those fictional mothers who looks chaotic on the surface, but the deeper you go, the more you realize that every wild decision she makes is rooted in one thing: protecting her kids from the pain she grew up with. She may not be perfect, but she is fiercely human, a mother who was shaped by trauma, survival, and unshakable love. Beneath her charm, her impulsiveness, and her dangerous secrets is a woman who would burn the world down before she lets it hurt Ginny or Austin. And whether the world sees it or not, she is a woman who always puts her children before herself. Throughout Ginny and Georgia, every flashback shows one thing consistently: this is a mother who never had a mother. Georgia survived abuse, poverty, manipulation, and exploitation. She had no one to guide her, no safe hands to fall into, no support system to rely on, yet she created one from nothing for her kids. Every choice she makes, whether morally questionable or outright terrifying, comes from her deep belief that her kids deserve a life she never had. She builds stability out of chaos, security out of danger, and opportunities out of thin air. And that is what makes her character so powerful. Georgia is not the storybook mother who teaches with patience, calmness, and gentle strategies. She teaches through action. She teaches through survival. She teaches through sacrifice. She teaches through the things she never got. And she teaches through love so fierce it sometimes destroys her. But that is the beauty of her: she is imperfect, flawed, messy, and still the best mother in ways the world refuses to acknowledge, because motherhood, at its core, is about intention, protection, and heart, and Georgia has all of it. 1. She broke generational trauma instead of passing it on. Georgia grew up surrounded by abuse, threats, and adults who treated her like property. Instead of continuing the cycle, she made sure her kids never faced the same fate. Every time she shielded Ginny and Austin, she was actively rewriting her family history. In multiple flashbacks, we see young Georgia trapped with no protection. These scenes mirror the choices she makes later, like running away, starting fresh, and building stability no matter how messy the process looks. She refuses to let her past define her children's future. This determination is the foundation of her motherhood. She works constantly to make sure her kids grow up in a world where safety is normal, not a privilege. And that alone makes her extraordinary. 2. She sacrificed her entire life to give her kids a better one. Georgia never had a childhood, but she makes sure her kids do. She works endlessly, hustles through different jobs, and uproots her life repeatedly to keep Ginny and Austin safe and stable. In many scenes, she takes any job she can find: waitressing, organizing events, selling her way into opportunities, because she refuses to let her kids go hungry or be unsafe. Even her questionable methods come from desperation, not selfishness. Her sacrifices show a universal truth: mothers don't get to choose comfort when their kids' futures are at stake. And Georgia chooses her kids every single time. 3. She protects her kids at any cost, even if it means being judged. From taking down abusive men to covering up danger, Georgia constantly chooses her children over societal approval. She doesn't care if people misunderstand her, she only cares if her kids are safe. Scenes like the fireworks night, where she keeps a tight watch on Ginny, or her confrontations with men who threaten her peace, show how hyper-aware she is of any danger around her children. She has survived too much not to be paranoid, and her paranoia saves her kids repeatedly. A mother who protects without hesitation is a mother who loves unconditionally. Georgia embodies that fully. 4. She teaches Ginny and Austin self-respect and independence. Georgia may act glamorous, charming, and carefree, but she constantly pushes her kids to value themselves. She wants them to be confident, outspoken, and unafraid of the world. Her speeches to Ginny about knowing her worth, her instinct to defend Austin's emotional struggles, and the way she encourages them to take space all show her desire to raise strong individuals. She never wants her kids to feel powerless like she once did. Through her confidence, she teaches them to take up space unapologetically. 5. She hides her pain so her kids can feel safe. A heartbreaking truth, Georgia never lets Ginny or Austin see how broken she is. She hides tears, suppresses trauma, and buries her nightmares because she wants them to see her as a shield, not a victim. In several scenes, she cries privately or breaks down alone, especially when her past catches up. But the moment her kids walk in, she switches into full mom mode, smiling and protecting them emotionally. This shows how deeply she understands motherhood. It's not about pretending to be perfect, but about giving your kids emotional safety even when you're shattering inside. 6. She always chooses love over anger. Georgia is fiery, but she never lets that fire burn her kids. Even when she's frustrated, scared, or overwhelmed, she tries to approach her children with softness. Scenes where she sits with Ginny after arguments or comforts Austin after his father's trauma show how she uses gentleness as her parenting tool. She's rough with the world, but tender with her kids. That softness, despite a lifetime of brutality, is one of her greatest strengths. 7. She tries to give her kids the normal life she never had. Georgia intentionally moves to Wellsbury to give Ginny and Austin a normal, suburban, peaceful life. School functions, friendships, routines, things she never experienced. Her excitement about PTA meetings, neighborhood parties, and school events is genuine because she finally gets to give her kids a slice of the childhood she was robbed of. Normalcy becomes her love language. 8. She teaches her kids to survive, not just exist. Georgia doesn't just teach life lessons, she teaches survival lessons. She knows the world can be cruel, and she equips her children with strength, wit, and resilience. Scenes where she warns Ginny about dangerous people, teaches her to be observant, or talks about trusting instincts show that she's preparing her children for real-world challenges. She gives them tools she never had: awareness, self-defense, and intuition. 9. She loves her kids more than any partner or relationship. Georgia falls in and out of relationships, but her kids always come first. Every romance she chooses or ends is based on their well-being, not her own desire. Scenes where she leaves unhealthy partners instantly or moves towns when danger appears show that she never prioritizes men over motherhood. Her love is unquestionable, her kids are her world. 10. She forgives her kids even when they shatter her, a level of love only a mother who survived hell can understand. Georgia's love for her kids isn't soft or easy, it is violent in its loyalty, unconditional in its depth, and terrifying in its forgiveness. Ginny doesn't just push her away, she breaks her trust, exposes her vulnerabilities, and challenges her entire identity as a mother. Every time Ginny calls her a liar, manipulator, or bad mom, it hits the deepest wound in Georgia, the wound of never having been loved by her own mother. Yet instead of shutting down or letting that pain turn into resentment, Georgia bends. She swallows the hurt. She lets her heart bruise so her kids don't have to feel the weight of her trauma. She doesn't respond with anger or ego, she responds with, "I'm trying," even when she's drowning. That ability to be gentle while bleeding on the inside is something only a mother who grew up unloved could do, because she knows exactly what it feels like to not be forgiven. There are moments where Ginny doesn't just hurt Georgia emotionally, she betrays her trust in ways that would end most mother-daughter relationships. She runs away. She exposes secrets. She looks at her mother like she's a monster. Anyone else would see those actions as unforgivable, especially for a woman who built her whole life around protecting her children. But Georgia doesn't allow herself to hate her daughter, not even for a second. Instead, she sees Ginny's pain first. She sees the scared little girl beneath the anger. She sees the generational trauma she desperately tried to stop from resurfacing in her daughter. And in every confrontation, Georgia chooses to take responsibility instead of retaliating. She apologizes for things she didn't mean to do. She comforts Ginny even when her heart is breaking. She protects Ginny even when Ginny doesn't protect her back. That level of forgiveness isn't weakness, it's the highest form of motherhood. What makes her forgiveness so profound is that she gives it even when it costs her everything. She gives it even when she's misunderstood, unappreciated, or blamed for sins she committed out of survival. She gives it even when she's exhausted from running her whole life to keep her children safe. Forgiving Ginny and Austin isn't just an emotional choice, it's her life's mission. Because Georgia knows one brutal truth: the world will punish her kids enough, and she refuses to be part of the pain. Her forgiveness becomes a safe space, a home, a shield. It is what transforms her from a complicated woman into a phenomenal mother. She may not always know the right way to love, but she knows how to keep loving even after she's hurt. And that is the kind of forgiveness that not only ends cycles, it rewrites them forever. Georgia Miller teaches us that motherhood isn't a fairy tale. It's gritty, painful, exhausting, and sometimes morally gray. But at its heart, it's about showing up, and Georgia shows up every single day, even when the world tries to break her. She doesn't rely on privilege, luck, or support. She builds everything herself, brick by brick, while carrying the weight of her past in silence. And through it all, she gives her kids something she never had: a chance at a better life. Her character reminds us that mothers can be imperfect and still be heroes. They can make mistakes and still love fiercely. They can struggle, fall, and get back up, all for the sake of their children. Georgia embodies the raw, unpolished, real version of motherhood that rarely gets portrayed in media. She is messy, bold, brave, emotional, and endlessly protective. At the end of the day, Georgia's greatest legacy isn't her charm, beauty, or cleverness, it's her devotion. It's the childhood she fought to give Ginny and Austin. It's the trauma she refused to pass down. It's the sacrifices she made in silence. And that is why, despite her contradictions and flaws, she stands as one of the best, most iconic mothers in modern television, a woman whose love is imperfect, but infinite.